What's going on, everybody? It's Rod with Pow Group. Welcome back on The Pursuit of Wealth, your home for MJ Stocks, crypto assets, news, and interviews. Today is Saturday, February 3rd. Hope you're doing well and hope you're having a great weekend so far. In this video, we're going to do another rapid fire news update for January 27th to February 2nd. And again, if you're not familiar with these new videos and format, essentially it's just to go over a high-level overview of all of the pertinent information that transpired over the last week or so. It's not to go into deep dive details, but if you wanted to learn more and review it more in your own time, feel free to do so. But before we get to it, make sure to smash the like. It helps support me and the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. If you're new, you can subscribe, tick the bell, all that good stuff, and you'll be notified on any future videos or when I go live. Also, you can give us a follow over on X. We've got tons of followers lately, so I really do appreciate it. Love each and every one of you who have supported me along the way. The handle for that is @GroupPow, and I'm going to be using that as my platform of choice going forward. The best way for me to get out real-time updates to the community. Also, if you haven't seen this yet, I was recently interviewed and I was on a podcast with Brewing Great Returns, and if you go to the Pow Group YouTube channel and just click on community, you can see where it's the first one there. So we discuss MJ and crypto. If you feel so inclined, you can check that out if you're looking for something to do this weekend. Also, High Times reports that survey shows broad support for MJ rescheduling and a boost for Biden if accomplished. So a new survey of likely U.S. voters hones in on the possibility of rescheduling MJ from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 on the Federal Controlled Substances Act, finding broad support across demographics and suggesting Biden could see an 11% favorability boost if it occurs. And imagine that's just rescheduling. Imagine if we get, descheduling and full-blown federal legalization, what that would do to some of these politicians who are running in their campaigns, right? They would obviously get a ton of young voters to come out and vote. I, for one, during the Canadian, when Canadian lawmakers were looking to fully legalize it, I basically never ever voted. I'm not really into politics, but you can bet your bottom dollar that I was out voting for the Liberals when they were looking to legalize MJ at the federal level, right? So this is going to, I'm sure this is going to be a similar outcome for the US as well. So I think that over the next, maybe not this election in November of this year, but the next one I think for sure is going to be relied on. They're going to rely on MJ heavily, but we'll see. Maybe it could be this year, but I think crypto is going to continue to steal the show for a little bit, at least until the next election. MJ Moment reports that a majority of U.S. military service members and veterans and their families support MJ legalization. So again, we're starting to see the writing is on the wall, and give the people what they want. The people have spoken. Also, this is a great article here and reassurance that the DEA is starting to change its tune here and could be issuing a monumental decision very, very soon with regards to rescheduling and HHS's recommendation. So MJ Moment reports that DEA rehires an agent that was fired over positive drug tests from CBD, agreeing to provide back pay in a lawsuit settlement. So the fact that they lost in this lawsuit, they had agreed to a settlement and they had to give back pay, not a good look for the agency. And the HHS has already recommended Schedule 3. We know that we saw the letter, the unredacted version, and they say that it's, there's tons of medical benefits. Obviously, you'd have to be living under a rock for the last 20 years if you didn't know that. But this is a great sign leading into this rescheduling decision where I think the DEA will come back at some point between now and the end of April. And I do think that they will approve that Schedule 3 recommendation. Then it'll go through another 60-day comment period, and about 90 days after thereafter, I assume is what I'm understanding is what would more than likely happen. It could be after, I'm still thinking it could be after the election and potentially in the beginning part of 2025, but if it happens 90 days after the announcement and we get the announcement from DA sometime between now and the end of April, that would be very welcomed. So I don't think any of us would have a problem with that, but as we know with the government, it's usually very slow. So I would just not hold my breath, and I would say that 2025 would be ideal. If we get rescheduling by then, I'd be happy. Also, New York Senator Gillibrand calls on DEA for descheduling. So not rescheduling, descheduling altogether. And again, I think this is more just political posturing. I mentioned it on my interview with Brewing Great Returns. I think it's mostly just political posturing. I don't think they're actually going to deschedule it. I think we will get there ultimately as our end goal, but I don't think that is what's going to happen first thing, right? They're going to take that incremental approach, that crawl, walk, run type of approach, and they're going to do it in phases, right? And then also, senators tell DEA to fully legalize MJ, demanding answers on rescheduling process. So you're seeing tons of articles, and just it continues to pop up, right, with regards to legalizing. Now they're changing the narrative to fully legalizing MJ, right? And how many people thought this was going to be 3, 5, 10 plus years out? It's always usually the opposite of what you would expect. When 80-90% of the world is expecting one thing, I'm a very big believer in the contrarian view, right? And again, I don't think that descheduling and full-blown legalization is the most likely scenario, this year. I think rescheduling to Schedule 3 is almost a surefire bet. I would say it's 90 plus percentile in the already done category. But, ultimately, I think over the next couple of years and into the next election is where we could see the U.S. legalize it federally and even deschedule it altogether. And then we also had Elizabeth Warren. One of the few things that ever comes out of her mouth that I agree with, it's time to legalize MJ nationwide and begin repairing the harms of an unjust criminal justice system. She's very, I don't know why she's so pessimistic and she just hates crypto. I really don't agree with her crypto stance. I think it's because she's protecting the incumbents. She works for the Wall Street bankers, right? She loves the JP Morgans and the Morgan Stanleys, and that's who gives her campaign dollars, right? So not surprising, I guess, that she's backing MJ because it doesn't really threaten the banks, right? And in fact, it might even help the banks because they make a ton of money off of financial investing and financial advising, and then also just fees with regards to trading and whatnot, right? So if we see uplisting to the NYSE and the NASDAQ, there's going to be a ton of fees for these banks. And that's basically, if you look at some of the bank earnings, tons of banks are making a killing recently, ever since C19 really, off of trading commissions, because a lot of people are starting to trade, especially when everybody was working from home or not working at all and getting, all this helicopter money, right? Also, MJ retailer High Tide reported earnings, and they had record sales, and they eyed German opportunity. They did miss analyst estimates, and I've already done a video. I've done a video on this in the past, so I'm not going to go into the details on this. But if you want to watch that video, I go over a deep dive on those earnings and my thoughts and opinions. Very bullish on it long term, though. MJ Moment reports that Ohio officials release first proposed MJ licensing rules amid push for expedited adult use sales. So there was tons of there was some skeptical people saying that, Ohio is going to roll back. It's voter approved, but they're not going to allow this happen. The lawmakers are going to get involved and they're going to put a block on this. They're not going to allow it to happen. And now we're starting to see push for expedited adult use sales. And it's not only Ohio, we're seeing it in other areas as well in the United States. Also, Cannara Biotech announced record-breaking Q1 2024 results, continued robust growth and market expansion. I did a video on this as well, so you can check that out for details on that. But essentially, one LP and Canadian company that I think is flying under the radar, and it's just not very known at the moment because it's only listed on Canadian exchanges, not even on the TSC. It's on the TSXV, so on the venture exchange. But once it gets on the TSX and then uplisted to the Toronto Stock Exchange and then also the U.S. major exchanges, I think this company is, like I said, a hidden gem, and it's definitely flying under the radar, at least for the time being. Also, Czech Republic's Economic Council wants regulated MJ market. So again, Canada was one of the first to do so. It's the same thing with the Bitcoin spot ETF. Canada was one of the first to do so. Then the U.S. did it. Canada was the first to really major country to legalize MJ, and now we're seeing it all around the world. We're seeing Germany as well making great strides, and we've got an update on that here in just a moment as well. Also, scientists developed new method to test for recent MJ use with 96% accuracy in federally funded driving simulation study. This is something I mentioned on the channel before as well, that I was a little unsure of how they were going to police this, how they were going to regulate this, and really it seems like almost impossible, but we'll see. I mean, with regards to technology, the sky's the limit, and AI and everything else. So maybe with the combination of using AI, we can find some breakthroughs. But then you got to factor in, like, what about people who take this for medicinal purposes, and maybe they're better off driving with MJ under the influence of MJ and not as opposed to not, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how they come out with this, but I think they'll probably exempt certain patients and things like that depending on your situation. But we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Definitely an interesting story. Also, MJ tech company Agrify gets extension for NASDAQ rule compliance. Not the first to receive that. And then multi-stater operator MedMen initiates more corporate layoffs. So not the greatest go here at the moment for MedMen, and it's just been a complete gong show over there. But this is one name that I hold a very, very small position of. It's 1% of my portfolio. I did a video a couple of days ago, my whole MJ portfolio 2024 update with percentage breakdown, and MedMen's only about 1% of my entire MJ portfolio, but definitely worth the risk in my opinion as a YOLO play, but halted at the moment as well. Also, IMMJ receives a 180-day calendar day extension from the NASDAQ stock market to regain compliance with the bid price rule. So, again, more companies continue to struggle as we look to end this multi-year bear market and start a new potential multi-year bull market. Also, we have Aurora MJ providing business update and announces date of third quarter fiscal year 2024 investor conference call. So, the troubling times continue. Speaking of NASDAQ minimum bid price rule, they're going to be consolidating common shares on a 1 for 10 basis. Yeah. So essentially the price will be multiplied by 10 and the amount of shares that you own will be cut by 10. So basically in a regular stock split, price go down, shares go up. In a reverse stock split, price goes up, shares go down. And that's to basically an accounting trick so that nothing changes with regards to, the market cap or the amount of dollars that you have invested in that company. It's still the same amount of dollar value. It's just you either end up with more shares or less shares depending on whether or not it's a regular stock split or a reverse stock split, right? In my opinion, it's just a way for these market makers to continue to manipulate it. They manipulate it on the way up. They do a stock split. Instead of Amazon being $2,000, it's now $100 or $200. People are like, oh, I can finally buy. And then they use it as exit liquidity. They sell on retail, price drops, and then they do the opposite. Whenever price is going down, they do a reverse split. Wall Street bankers and their institutions and the institutional friends, they get to stay, that gets to stay on the NASDAQ, and then it's just a way for them to manipulate it on the way down as well. And it's not the only company. Aurora's already done them in the past. I think it did a 1 for 14 or a 1 for 12. I think the all-time high is going to be at like $1,500 or something like that. Pretty crazy. But they reaffirmed expectation of positive adjusted annual EBITDA for fiscal 2024 and positive free cash flow generation in calendar 2024. And they're going to be announcing the results on February 8th, 2024. And they will have an investor conference call on February 8th as well at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Moving right along, Organigram completes first shipment to Germany and extending its international reach. And we've got another update here in just a moment with regards to Germany. Very exciting times. Also, Village Farms starts building MJ facility in the Netherlands pilot program. And as we know, we're starting to see more and more reform with regards to MJ in the European countries as well, right? And it's just a matter of time before game theory and the dominoes continue to fall. Also, former NFL stars hint at presidential bid with weed platform. So former NFL quarterback Jim McMahon teased a presidential run recently with fellow professional football player and cannabis entrepreneur Kyle Turley as his running mate. So again, we're starting to see, this is just going to be something that continues to pop up in political campaigns. And we're starting to get a little bit of a teaser into, just that right now. Also, Alberta MJ retailers can now sell at special events. Just imagine when you can go to, an Oilers game, or you can go to an Elks game, or you can go to, Green Bay Packers, or you can go to the Kansas City Chiefs, and you can buy a beverage there. You're not going to be able to buy joints. You're not going to be able to buy, you're not going to be able to hit a bong or anything like that in the stands, right? You're going to buy a beverage that's MJ infused, right? So this is going to be huge. Imagine when you can go to a restaurant or a bar or a pub or whatever, and you can buy an MJ infused beer or an MJ cocktail rather than an alc or a non-alc, just a plain non-alc beer, right? Or non-alc version of something, right? So it's going to be huge. The beverage market is so underrated, in my opinion. It's going to be massive with regards to, events and imagine going to concerts and things like that. So Minnesota MJ regulators also outlined a plan to expedite legal sales and give early advantages to equity businesses. So again, we're starting to see that narrative as well, expedite legal sales, right? So it's almost a race to the finish here at the moment. Everybody knows, in my opinion, nobody wants to get left behind now at the state level, and it's just a matter of time before, we're pretty much half the United States are legal at the recreational level. It's just a matter of time before we reach that federally. Also, Florida, we know that Florida's going to be potentially, I would say it's like a done deal at this point. I would say 95+% chance that it ends up in the 2024 ballot. I'm pretty sure. Maybe I misunderstood, but I think it might even already be on there. I have to get official confirmation from that, but there's been just a ton of updates with regards to MJ in general. It's hard to kind of keep up with everything, but I'm pretty sure it's as close to 100%, if not already 100% confirmed, that Florida is going to be on the ballot for 2024. And then I think there's a very good chance, 70-80% chance, that it actually gets approved and enacted into law in the summer of 2025. So Florida lawmakers also approved a bill to place THC limit on recreational MJ ahead of possible legalization ballot vote. So yeah, it says ahead of possible legalization ballot vote. I thought it was already a done deal, but Ron DeSantis basically dropped out of the presidential race. So he had to basically try to cater to everybody in the U.S. and backing MJ wasn't really the best approach or strategy because there's a lot of anti-MJ states. So now that he's no longer in the race, it makes sense that he's just going to back MJ full force, as Floridians just want it to happen, right? So give the people what they want, and I think it's just a matter of when, not if. So I think this is huge. I think this is. We'll see what the limit's going to. I don't know if they'll be able to do that. I mean, Florida's a pretty wide open market, and you go to Nevada and you can buy like 30+% THC flower. So I don't know. I don't know what kind of cap they would put it at, but we'll see. I mean, in Canada they started out, there was like 60% THC limit on other. So we'll see. But I saw there were some articles. I can't remember if it was. I forget which state it was, but they were talking about like a 10 or 15% THC cap. It's like that would never ever happen, in my opinion. It'd be almost like a economic death sentence with regards to the MJ space, because everybody would just go back to the illicit market at that point. Wouldn't make any sense. So Cresco Labs promotes Greg Butler to president. And this is a name that I added recently to my TFSA in 2024 as well. Very bullish on them long term. Definitely not my top, but again, you can check out my MJ portfolio for 2024 update for more information on that. I do hold it in my portfolio. Full disclosure, but not financial advice. Do your own research and never buy anything based on anything that I say or anything that I write. And probably the most exciting update: Germany's coalition government reaches final deal on MJ legalization bill with vote set for this month. So the vote set for this month, and we should see it go live in April. So enactment in April. So this is going to be huge, and then we'll see, full blown. We'll really start to see things ramp up in 2025, and who knows? I might be buying a plane ticket to Germany at some point in the next year or so, and really starting to kind of explore the world and kind of go and document some of these new areas of the world where they're starting to embrace reform and this medicine of the future, right? And then Boris Jordan's always tweeting about it. German health minister on MJ rescheduling deal. Here we go. So Karl Lauterbach, obviously Curaleaf, very, very bullish on the German market, and they're going to be a huge beneficiary of that market. They're my second biggest MJ holding as well. You can refer to that video, my MJ portfolio 2024 update. But I think Curaleaf is going to be an absolute monster. And excited about Germany coming. And then obviously rescheduling, removal of 280E. Oh man, Boris Jordan has already said that they'd probably be paying investors a dividend, if not just for 280E. They've already paid over $350 million to the US government just under 280E tax code alone. Just imagine how bullish the stock in the sector would get if we get Germany, full-blown legalization there, rescheduling in the US, not even descheduling, just rescheduling. Sky's the limit. Also, Don Murphy continues to report on the Hill, safe banking co-sponsor. You'll be happy, just be patient. So a swing and a miss from Sam and usual suspects, Prohibition Pete's, and On Location. So he continues to provide updates from the Hill, and it's looking like safe banking is gaining some traction as well. And Boris Jordan actually had mentioned that he believes that we could see safer banking potentially gain some traction and maybe even get approved at some point in the next few months. So we'll continue to take a grain of salt, with all of this stuff. We've been let down before, but it's looking like this time definitely is different. 2/3 of Pennsylvania voters support MJ legalization. New poll finds as lawmakers plan MJ hearing next week. So this was 2 days ago on February 2nd, so it'll be next week. But again, game theory continues to play out. Pennsylvania, we have Ohio coming online. Pennsylvania, next major market as well, and then Florida with the potential to be the biggest market in the U.S. Times are getting exciting. So I'm excited for the rest of the year. It's been an amazing start, and let's finish strong. But it's looking like over the next few months, we could get pretty nutty here. And things are starting to heat up in a big way, no pun intended. And I'm here for it. But going under there, it's Rod with Power Group. Thanks again for joining us in the pursuit of wealth. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and we'll see you again on the next video.